We are just a few hours away from the War Within reaching everybody's hands, but trust me when I tell you, you have to approach the War Within differently than any other WoW expansion, and here is why. Most of you guys know by now, I'm critical when it needs to be, and I praise them when they do things right, and we go to extremes with that on occasion when they get things really wrong, but also the opposite when they get things really, really right. And it's left me with a good relationship with Blizzard as always being fair. So I'm going to be fair with you now. The War Within. This will miss the mark with you if you treat this like any ordinary WoW expansion, because it is not. It is a different direction. They are going to try something new, and the way they've done that is by keeping all the things you know the same, and then really trying to get you to care about the fact that this is the World Soul Saga. It is a narrative-driven World of Warcraft expansion. I cannot stress that enough. The focus of the War Within is on the story, and I know you are, and I am, habitual skipper. Habitual press escape as soon as the cutscene pops up. Get out of here, get out of my way, I need to level. I've seen Gingies leveled 17, level 80s. I need to do that as well. Listen, guys, the War Within runs differently. Levels are irrelevant. I cannot stress that enough. They're so irrelevant. You can cap a character in the War Within in like 2 hours, semi-casually. If you're just doing some dungeons, you will just get level 80. It's not the focus at all, any way, shape, or form. What I would recommend to you, if you don't listen to anything I say, is come into the War Within, as I did, and I had to retract. Believe me, if you saw our last video, I treated the story like I ordinarily would in World of Warcraft, and came back with fresh eyes, and God, I'm so glad I did. The pacing is significantly better. I'm not going to spoil anything here. What's happening is a big deal, and it's going to be an even bigger deal going forward. If you saw Chris Metzen's interview, you know, or if you don't know, I'm going to tell you, that the War Within was already in production long before Chris Metzen came back. It was already planned and things were doing, and from what we can gather, or infer, what we can infer from Chris Metzen's word during his interview is he came in, he looked at it, and it was World of Warcraft expansion, the World of Warcraft expansion. And he's like, this ain't gonna cut it. This ain't gonna cut it anymore. We can't do this. And the reason we can't do this is you guys screwed up, people left, and then they went to places like Guild Wars 2, to Destiny 2, to Final Fantasy 14, and people realized it doesn't need to be this way. The grass was greener elsewhere, and you can have an absolutely epic, monolithic storytelling experience that people care about and brings millions of people to tears and joy in an MMO. And that's where we need to be going, because our gameplay is king. That's where I sit in that camp. WoW's gameplay is king, and it's one of the things I've been loving coming back and playing. But our narrative is full shambles. It's fallen apart. So what have they done to solve it? What should you do, in my opinion, to have the best time in the War Within? Forget about levels. Literally, the campaign alone. If you just do the campaign, which is what I did, and it's really fun, just do the campaign. Pay attention to what's going on. It's really short. Genuinely really short. Even if you're paying attention and listening to what's going on, it's going to take you a few hours to get through the campaign. And that's going to leave you around level 76, 77. And you're going to be, like I would be in like Shadowlands and BFA, like, God, like I haven't even capped and I've finished the story. They unlock everything for you as soon as you finish the campaign. Your renown's unlocked. Your daily quests are unlocked. It's all there. You're at the end game. You're done. You don't need to worry about it at all. But I guarantee you, if you pay attention to what the hell is happening in this expansion to set up the next 3 expansions, you're going to have a really good time. You're going to actually care about some of these characters. You're going to actually forget all the memes that are going around with people who are like, oh, World of Warcraft story. Yeah, I was in that camp as well. You're going to have a really good time, and you're going to be like, oh God, this is kind of cool. Because it is. They've done a really good job. I've struggled, and I've been looking to find the holes here, because there's always holes. There's always in the World of Warcraft story some weird, illogical leap, something that doesn't fit because the gameplay of the systems and the things they want does not mesh with the story at all. And you're like, well, this doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. There's none of that in the War Within. It's actually carefully and delicately taken, and it's subtle. There's no massive exposition cutscene where it's like, okay, we need to accelerate the story in about 30 seconds including nearly every narrative plot twist that would happen in a movie for an hour and a half. It's like the anti-Kojima, right? This time, the cutscenes are spread out, they're short, and they're just little pushes in the narrative to where to go. The biggest issue I found, literally, the biggest issue I found as somebody who cares very much about video game stories, is just that they really, really need to work on a couple of things, and you'll notice this. One is their end zone bosses are just out in the world and they're never a threat. That needs to change to scenarios like yesterday. It has to change. It's terrible. It's boring. You often turn up and it's already dead, and these people just stood around scratching their ass waiting for the enemy to spawn, and then you kill it in like 3 seconds. On my death knight, I can't even pop all my cooldowns before these bosses die. It's so stupid because you're supposed to be afraid of them. That is a gameplay issue they need to sort. Not a narrative issue, a gameplay issue. The second thing, which is rife in Dragonflight and it's here as well, they really need to up their lip sync technology. The rendered cutscenes that they've put together carefully are one for one. They're magnificent. They're so good. There's inflection, there's emotion in the faces. They're amazing. And then there's the ones that take place in-game, where they basically just do /talk, and they're doing this. And it doesn't add up, and it really takes you a second to be like, okay, I just have to ignore the fact that their faces don't make any sense and kind of listen to what's going on. That needs to change for Midnight. It has to change, or at least at some point in the War Within. I'm not saying you need to pre-render everything, but there should be better lip sync technology for what's going on, because we know it exists. We know it exists, which can be easily better. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just has to be better than what it is. Other than that, I'm here to just tell you guys, like, if you give this a chance, I think you're going to have the best World of Warcraft experience possible, because we know that Metzen and his team and his change of direction is really going to start showing its face after this. In his words, he came in, the War Within was set, he changed some things to push it in a direction, but most of the stuff was already built, so couldn't affect there. But going forward, more and more of that is going to shine in. And if this is what they've done to start this ball rolling, it's really good. And I never, ever thought I would sit here after all the years I've been doing World of Warcraft content and tell you, pay attention to the story. Don't just start skipping. Give it a chance one time. And I truly believe you're going to have one of the better World of Warcraft experiences you can ever have. Everything is waiting for you. Everything's locked down in terms of character progression for a little while yet. You'll have heroics at best. And if you really need a bunch of alts, you can cap them ridiculously quickly in the War Within. It's not necessary. And trust, once you play this campaign, I think you'll be more than tempted to go back and do the side quests. There is a side quest in the first zone that is doing the rounds now as more and more people are discovering this narrative-driven expansion that is kind of one of the best storylines they've ever written. Really is. Like, it actually, like, evokes a lot of emotion. And I'm not talking about laughing at Runus because he's scratching because he's a drug addict. I'm talking about something that's like, oh my god, this is pretty heavy. It's heavier than we've seen in World of Warcraft for a pretty long time. Most of the stuff is left in the background, and if you know, you know. This is more full on. It's great. It's really good. And if this falls flat on its face because of the typical World of Warcraft behavior that I'm guilty of as well, which is like, I just want to collect quest, go, kill thing, carry on, you're going to miss out on so much. You don't need to read every single quest text that happens. You don't. You'll get the general gist pretty quickly of what's going on, and then you can carry on. I would also say, this is crucially important, guys, there is a lot of stay a while and listen stuff in between the quests, where a couple of the important NPCs will be like, you can listen to more things going on, and they're really good as well. They add a lot to what's going on, and they're worth it. They're absolutely worth it. I know you're not gaining XP at an accelerated rate. Do it, because you're going to get invested, and that's what they're aiming for. And I will be genuinely really sad if after this, we have the kind of atypical comment is, the story is trash, I skipped through it. So you don't know what the story is, really. Right? And that is something we see all the time in a lot of games, is like, the story was crap, I just skipped through it. Right, so the story is not crap. It's not. It's good. It's really good. If they keep on this path, we're in for a really good time with the World Soul Saga, and I couldn't be happier. After my issues with World of Warcraft, God knows I was looking for some reason to really enjoy and discuss what's going on. And we will have a full spoiler video coming up. But that's my message. That's literally what I want to put out there. Come in with that mindset when it goes fully live in the next few hours. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to say. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.